friends, I am so stoked because you can see the title. Today we're going to go see The Boogeyman and it's coming out, I'll put you down so you don't get motion sickness. It's coming out on time in Australia, so I could not be more thrilled. It actually currently says on IMDb that it's still in, it's the production status just says finished and it doesn't have any reviews. I am so excited. I know there's already been a screening of it, by the way, but I haven't seen anything, so it's really exciting. This is just a general screening and they're doing a advanced screening for it, which is really cool, so anyone can go. And I'm so excited for this one. So this is directed by Rob Savage, who did Host and Dashcam, and that's what I'm most intrigued about because Host, everyone liked, it knew what it was very self-aware, and it came out during a time lockdown, and it just made a lot of sense for a horror movie, and it was done the best to its ability. But Dashcam was just not what we were expecting from this emerging horror director, and it was very controversial, and yeah, it still has a lot of people, I wouldn't even say on the fence, people are on polar sides of that film. So I'm really excited what he does with I think of this as more of like a high budget kind of mainstream horror that is more, just the traditional jump scare it's called The Boogeyman, That's what I'm expecting. I have not seen the trailer, by the way. The film is an adaptation of Stephen King's short story, The Boogeyman, and this one stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, and Lester Billings. This short story was actually featured in a 1973 issue of a magazine, and then later in The Night Shift, which is a collection of Stephen King's short stories. So it's really interesting to see how they're going to adapt it and modernize it. And it was also meant to be a straight to Hulu release. So I'm just so stoked that we get to see it in the cinema because I haven't seen kind of like a jump scare popcorn kind of horror in a while, and I'm ready to be spooked, I love being spooked. The story is about a high school student, Sadie, and her younger sister, who are currently grieving, and they don't get much support from their father, who is a therapist. But things take a turn when one of his patients show up at their door seeking help and bringing with them something sinister. So I am so stoked, and I'm so excited because I'm seeing this. It's winter here, so it's like dark early. It's gonna be the whole vibe. And I think because this is an early release, but it's a general screening, only horror fans will really go to it. So it will be a very good crowd, hopefully. Anyway, let's go check it out. I'll keep this completely spoiler free, and I'll let you know whether it's worth your time or if you should wait and watch it, and the straight to streaming would have been better for everybody. Let's go see The Boogeyman. Hi friends, it is cold out there. I just got out of watching The Boogeyman. The title is, I don't know, I get it, it's from a short story, but it doesn't really go with this movie per se. I don't think so. Anyway, I enjoyed the movie. It was very different to what I had anticipated, but not in a bad way, just in a really interesting way. And as I said before I had seen it, I was really interested in the way that Rob Savage would have taken this film, and I can definitely see like his mind at work, and it definitely brought a different element to this kind of like popcorn jump scare horror. The movie is, as I explained, I feel like a lot of films really touch on the idea of grief, and this film, it was very obvious from the start where it was going. It reminded me a lot of kind of like a Lights Out meets Smile. It had like some of this, more of the same atmosphere as Smile, not so much the story, although I did feel like it was going to go down that path. it didn't, but I felt like it was a combination of them both. It's that jump scare, easy to watch horror that has an overwhelming metaphor. And this one is all about grief, which you'll find out from the very start. That is definitely not a spoiler. It starts after the death of their mother, and it's about two girls and a father, and their process trying to move on when something appears in their house. The things that this film did really well were the scares, and I felt like it's because it had a different process or formula of moving you through the story. I didn't feel like there was an overwhelming kind of arc going on. Usually in, any kind of investigation horror, like Darkness Falls or like those 2000s horror where it's very much about jump scares, and even The Conjuring could be counted, where they find the entity, they figure out what it is, and then they try and end it. In this film, it feels like they're just going through the process of trying to understand what's happening to them for a very long time. And so things happen later in the film that I felt like could have happened in the opposite order. And it just didn't feel like it was progressing much. But I kind of liked it. It felt like a welcome to change where we were just kind of living in this situation with them. And yeah, I don't know. It just felt a little bit different in that respect. But that's where I believe comes into play, it being based on a short story and then padding out some of the surrounding scenes on that. And then of course, I mean, when it's a short story, I know that it probably does not contain nearly as much information as the film. But I do also think with the way Rob Savage has done his films, and he has done quite a lot. I know I just mentioned Host and Dashcam, but usually they're around a unique situation and an idea, and then playing off that for the entire film. And I felt like this film, there was definitely scenes and aspects that he just wanted to work into there, and so he found a way to make it work with this entity. And it wasn't a bad thing by any means, and I'll tell you why. Because the actors and the characters in this film are so good. They're a really like pleasant family and had a lot of depth, and yeah, I just really enjoyed, especially Sadie, the main the protagonist, the main girl. I just really felt for her, so I would follow her I guess living in a haunted house for the rest of her life. Not that that was a haunted house, but in some regard. There's also some really fun surprises. If you know Rob Savage's movies well, you might find them, which I was like really excited about, but I was definitely wrong about that showing that I went to. I thought it would be just for horror fans, but apparently it was for a pack of hyenas. Instead of screaming, which is very acceptable, they're all laughing the entire film. Whether it was funny, whether it was sad, whatever was happening, they were laughing their asses off. But back to the film, some things I didn't appreciate about it. I didn't really love the entity, but there were some aspects that I thought were done really well, like the sound design with it, which I'll leave that up to you to figure out, but I just thought that was really cool, and that creeped me out more than any visual representations. The cinematography was all, oh my god, you scared the shit out of me. Oh my god, I'm like filming in my car. Thank you, what is this? Thank you, Rob. That's really sweet. I've never had that happen before. Oh my god, is he in the back? He's definitely in the back. How did he find my car? That was my friend Rob, who I met through doing Spooky Astronauts. I sometimes watch movies with now, and he was in the same screening as me, and he found me and brought me a present. So that was really scary. Anyway, what was I saying? Let's talk about cinematography. I did not find the cinematography or really like the atmosphere of this film to be consistent all the way throughout. It was very faded, and I thought, there's always can be a purpose to this. It can be transitioning through from the characters feeling something to feeling something else in a safe place and vice versa. But I felt like it was very strong with tones, and there wasn't really much rhyme or reason to it. And the fade was really intense, and then it was also at points really shallow depth of field. It felt like The Servant, if you've ever seen the TV show Servant. It felt very similar to that. And there was a point at the start of the film where the three characters were wearing the same color tone jumpers, and then like an overcoat that was green, and their jumpers were all like yellow or mustard, or they were wearing a dress and it was yellow. And it was a very interesting point, because I wondered if that was going to be carried throughout or if that was purposeful at all. So if any of you find anything similar to that throughout the film, please let me know, because I didn't really catch it continuing past that point. I don't think it was something overly obvious, but I always look for that kind of thing and try and pick meaning out of everything. And I just thought it was interesting how much it changed the kind of stylization throughout the film, and it wasn't, you know, one designated look. I guess we got to talk about scares. For once, I don't have to talk about how this film was so gory and not just scary. This film is intended to scare you. It's got the creaking doors. It's got the darkness. If you're afraid of the dark, which I am, it definitely got me. And there were points where the way the brutality is shown is really terrifying, and I mean, it is a jump scare, but it's really shocking, and not shocking to disturb you, but shocking to really pull you out of the seat and just completely surprise you, which I really enjoyed. And I definitely jumped a couple of times because they really hit you right in the face. There's one particular moment where I thought it was just done really perfectly. And I should have said before as well, with the cinematography, also the movement of the camera is really important with a lot of the jump scares, and I guess the stylization throughout. He definitely plays with twisting and all that kind of stuff to give you a different perspective, and I enjoyed that. I just don't think any of the stylization and camera movements and all of those cool techniques really gelled with the idea of the story or really were consistent throughout the whole thing. So it didn't really have an overwhelming atmosphere where you go, oh my god, I love that film, because I love the stylization of it, because it felt like it was a mix of all these different things. Overall though, I did enjoy the film. I think the characters were solid. I do think it progressed very slowly, but I kind of enjoyed wondering where it was going to go and just watching them get scared over and over and over. And I do think it's a solid popcorn horror. So if you're looking for a movie that you don't have to think too hard while you're watching, but the characters aren't insufferable, check out The Boogeyman. I just don't like the title because it feels, it's not like it feels jovial, but it just, I mean, I'm Spooky Astronauts, but it just doesn't fit the film, but I get why they had to keep it. I mean, they explain it in the film, but it just doesn't, when you say the Boogeyman, I just feel like it should have had a different backstory to go with the Boogeyman. I want to know what you guys thought. If you saw this film, let me know down below, but I do think it is worth checking out in the cinema if you can go to a quiet screening, because guys, people are loud, but you know, it's so fun to see these kinds of films on the big screen because it's all dark and the suspense is just running through your whole body. I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10, meaning I would recommend it to horror lovers if you're into this kind of thing. For scare score, I'm going to give it a 6, and for originality, I'm gonna give it like a 4. I don't think it's a very original film at all, but I hope you guys enjoyed coming along with me and watching me get scared out of my mind, and I'll talk to you guys very soon for a what's coming to VOD this month, so stay tuned for that, and stay safe and stay spooky. Bye friends.